So we are on, if I'm not mistaken, the number 4 now? No, 5 now. So, Tobi, it's your number 5 movie, sorry.
Yeah, I already said it's a recurrent theme that funny movies make my list, and with that, number 5 is Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, fair enough. Thor Ragnarok, indeed. So, what did you like about that? It's a very popular movie, by the way. You're not on your own on that one. So.
Yeah, I know that, but I think, well, the first thing is that leaves it off a little, gives it a head start, is that it's so much better than the first Thor movie. So it's like,
how dare you? I love that first Thor movie.
I'm
on my own, I know, but
no, I like it. I actually like Dark World. Okay. I don't care.
I don't like either of the Thor movies.
Me too.
So it already got a head start because I'm just like, okay, finally a good Thor movie. That's nice to have.
Okay.
I really like what's she called? Hela? No.
Yeah, Kate Blanchett's character.
Yeah. I really like her. I really liked, this horn helmet thing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the costume in general. I really like that they just randomly put the Hulk in it. Why not make? It's random, but it's just a fun little thing that they just did for, I don't know why. But
yeah.
It's just I'm bad with names. Not collector.
No, the Grandmaster.
Grandmaster, yeah. I think he is really fun. He kind of gives me Hunger Games vibes, like the one guy from the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I watched the Hunger Games.
That's fair enough. No, that's all.
But
see,
I think he's really fun, and I also really like the ending. That it's just a big cliffhanger, sort of.
Into Infinity War, of course. Yeah. Okay. My issue with Ragnarok at the time, and I've softened a lot on it, I will say, but at the time I just didn't like that it seemed like it had taken the first 2 Thor films, for better or worse, were serious and treating it seriously, and the third one was just like, now we're going to treat it like a joke, and it was kind of, in my eyes, it seemed a bit disrespectful, I guess, to disregard this. But having said that, I mean, when you watch it and realize, yes, one of the criticisms is that they turned it into Guardians of the Galaxy, but when you watch it and realize that's kind of what they're going for, and you just have to accept that it's different now than the first 2 movies, which you did like, and when you accept what Taika Waititi did and how kind of brilliantly funny and quirky he did make it, and I will say, his character, Korg, absolutely hilarious. I just cannot get over talking about laugh out loud moments. I'm made of rock, but don't worry unless you're made of scissors was one of those other ones that just had me in creases.
I like it. Yeah, I like it, but I have no taste. I like the first 2 films. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And it did seem to be trying too hard to be Guardians.
Yeah. I'm fully with you on that, but like I say, I think I've warmed to it because I've kind of come to it and thought, don't treat it as disrespectful, treat it as a completely separate thing from the other movies.
I didn't like the way they got rid of Odin. I didn't like the way they just dismissed Asgard pretty much straight away. The Warriors 3 binned. It just seemed like they were just, like that last James Bond film, like they were just having a clear out sale.
See, I love the last James Bond film, but that's a different story.
I mean, anything Jeff Goldblum's in is automatically elevated to God status because he's got Jeff Goldblum in it. But
yes, you enjoyed me in the film,
But I like it. It's just again, it's another overrated one in my opinion.
I'm kind of with you on that, which is why it won't come up again. But I absolutely see Tobi's points and reasons for love the film. And I fully would, I can't argue against them at all. It's just for me, I think I prefer the other Thor movies. But having said that, I'm really on board now that I know what they're going for to see what Taika Waititi brings to Thor: Love and Thunder.
You're a purist, Mike. Like me, you were raised on the comic book, so it's kind of a little jarring.
Ragnarok is a lot closer to those Jack Kirby comics than the originals, though. But,
with the colours and everything, but it's I don't know. I think it's just the tone. The tone didn't.
Yeah, it depends whose comics, because I was raised on J. Michael Straczynski's Thor, which is like deadly serious, as opposed to, you know, Stanley Jack Kirby Thor, which is cross the rainbow bridge, chap. I am actually a human doctor who knocks his walking stick 4 times. And, you know, but yeah.
See, I was raised on that. I think it was just the flippancy with which they dismissed, in my opinion, things which were long established. But it's a very nerdy nitpick, so I do accept that is on my part.
But come on, we're all nerds. That's what we're here for, so it's fair as well, you know. So yeah, so that was Toby's number 5. So now we are after your number 5.
Oh, good grief! Sorry, talking that much, I forgot it was my turn. Mine is Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I like it because I think it was at that point that Marvel showed that it could do a superhero movie, but take it in a different direction. I think it's more. It's especially with getting Redford. I know that, you know, a lot of people again don't like his character, but I think it took it into that political territory, which I think is what Captain America needed. Don't get me wrong, I love the first one as an adventure film. It just can't be beat. But from the word go, I think this brought a different tone into the MCU and kind of dissuaded the people that say, oh, they're all carbon copies of each other, and showed that it could you could have a Marvel film that was a superhero movie, but definitely based in another genre.
Yeah. Fair enough. And we will see my number 5, which is Captain America Civil War. Actually, yet again, my top 5 are all very close together in my eyes, and I loved Civil War because, for me, well, I mentioned little moments like the Black Panther and Zemo moment at the end, or just any of the emotional interplay, and the fact that it is literally like there is no right or wrong, but you can absolutely see both sides and yet take one of them, I guess. So it kind of gets you involved in that way, and you really do start to feel about stakes and things like that. It's also a perfect example of how to adapt a comic story, because it is not slavishly sticking to the comic, and yet it gets all of the key points and things that it needs to make a 2-hour movie, and does it brilliantly. And it does still include homages like the shield clashing against Iron Man's repulsors image and everything. That's really cool. And yeah, just in terms of visual spectacle, yes, it's nerdy, and I fully admit that, but the airport battle really is just spectacular, because you are just watching 12 whatever superheroes, all with different power sets, just railing on each other and using them to do amazing things. And unlike the first Avengers, they're now not afraid to have like a guy turn into a giant in the middle of the battle or whatever, things like that. So, which you couldn't really imagine. I mean, Hulk was as crazy as they were willing to go at first. So I just think there's so much there. I'd invested in the characters to a point where I was fully on board anyway, and then they gave me fantastic action, brilliant writing, and just great direction, and I love the movie. So Captain America Civil War, my number 5. Any thoughts, or is that coming up later as well?
It's not coming up on mine. I love it. Don't get me wrong. We're in the upper tiers now, the Marvel movies, so pretty much anything from this point is pretty much a classic. But to me, this felt more like an Avengers movie than a Captain America movie, and that's the only thing that puts me off it. And it's just, again, it's just a personal nitpick. I like it. I was expecting something more along the lines of Winter Soldier.
See, I didn't like Winter Soldier.
And it felt more like an Avengers movie to me.
I always found most of the Captain America comics, when they tried to be political thrillers and just involve Cap and Shield, to be quite boring. So I was relieved that they adapted something cool like Civil War.
Well, that's fair enough. As we say, different strokes.
Yeah. Anyway, what about you, Toby? Have you got it on your list? Or?
No, it's not coming up.
Okay.
It's kind of the same for me, that I enjoyed the second Captain America so much that the third Captain America just went to a different direction, and I was upset about it.
Fair enough.
And I'm over this now, so I'm not upset anymore. But when I was watching, I was upset.
Okay.
What I can at least say positively about it is that I can see some strokes from the Winter Soldier in going into the Civil War. It's still sort of political in some ways, at least, even though it's more it's not as deeply as the second Captain America. It's very surface level. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
it's very much
it is.
surface level political.
It kind of goes. It takes a left turn on the kind of politics it is, but I think it's not lesser so much as just different.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like a cheat. It kind of comes across to me like it's like they were trying to sneak in an Iron Man 4. And I think that took away, in my opinion, from Cap.
I would say that there's a much more legitimate case to say that about Spider-Man Homecoming, to be fair. At least Iron Man makes sense in this
fair
movie.
Enough.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Also, one thing that also really, what I don't like is that I genuinely find the concept, what they were trying to do with this political, very interesting. And that's kind of the problem, that if they only did that on surface level, that I'm just like, there could have been more.
Yeah,
there could have been more. It could have.
Yeah, that's.
And if they went more with the vibe of the. If they went more with the vibe of the Winter Soldier movie, then I think it could have been very brilliant.
You could have filmed more than one movie, but I think in terms of trying to get it into 2 hours and make it a Captain America sequel and make it make sense within this universe, it was perhaps the best we were going to get. So, but yeah.
Oh no, no disparaging it at all. It's a good film. It didn't feel like a Captain America film to me.
See, it does to me because I think Cap is crucial to. Well, he is the leader of the one side that I side with in that, and he is. It comes down to like the fact that they included my favorite Cap line from the Civil War comics, which is, they shoehorn it in, but the idea of like the key is that even if the entire world is trying to tell you that something wrong is something right, you plant yourself like a tree and say, no, you move, which I think sums up Captain America so perfectly in one line, that it's like, okay, I get you. But anyway, moving on to Will's number 5. The number 5 on his list is Spider-Man from 2002. I told you he hadn't seen many. But yeah. No, he does. He really likes this film. Again, I'll give you 3 guesses how many stars it got from Will.
4. I'm going to go with 4.
It was 4. And he just says, this is an elite film to watch and enjoy. Just don't think about it. Which I don't fully get, but okay, well. Not going to go any further into that one. I promise his reviews do get bigger from here on in for the top 4. But yeah, that's all he had to say about Spider-Man 1. But hey, it made his number 5, so can't be bad.
Cool.
So yeah, we're going to start the number 4s now. Then we'll start with you, Tobi. What's your number 4, Phil?
My number 4 is the only movie on this list where I am still to this very moment not sure if it is at the right place or if it even is in the top 10 at all.
Wow, okay.
Oh.
And the reason is, and you're gonna see why, that it's very recent, and I'm kind of waiting for time to go on and be like, okay, does it really fit there, or is it just I'm still excited about it because it was so recent? It's Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, when the movie came out, it was like very hype, and I'm still kind of feeling that, and I'm waiting to have it more die down so that I can really be sure that it fits there. But currently, it's on my place 4. But I am really not sure. I'm really conflicted about this. The thing is that I really like the storyline they were doing. I really like it. I really like that we got the Spider-Mans back. They are handled as well as you can do in the one time. I feel like the first half maybe is too slow. It could have probably been tighter. And most of the villains I like that are coming back. Some are choices where I'm not sure, because there are some difference between obviously how they are No Way Home and then how they were in the original movies. So I'm like, some of these choices I'm like not sure. I'm still thinking about it, and it's at number 4. But yeah, I'm really conflicted about this. I haven't made my mind up yet, and even though it's like it's 4 months already, isn't it?
Well,
4 months?
I am not conflicted, and
I am also not conflicted, but it's my number 4 also.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
what are the odds?
I know. This is the movie that pushed out Into the Spider-Verse for me.
Right.
Because this was my Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Now, I only saw it recently. Because I'm not sure what it's like for you guys, but here we're still kind of restrictive when it comes to.
It's not that bad, actually. No.
Yeah, with the pandemic, and as I think I explained to you last time, I have to get a train and then a bus, and it's just So it was a first day release. It was a first day purchase on Blu-ray, so we got it. Watched it last week. Like Toby, I wasn't sure about the first half, but whereas Toby thinks the first half was too slow, to me it was too rapid fire. And after everything I'd heard about it, I'm sat there and I'm thinking, I'm really not enjoying this. I'm really not enjoying this. And I wanted to like it so much. And when they introduced Doc Ock, it seemed a very flippant way to do it. And he seemed like he was almost there for comic relief. And I'm thinking, I cannot get on board with this. And then the plot kicked in. And it just felt like emotional gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, what with May and then Andrew and Toby. And by the end of the movie, I just thought, this is one of the best things ever.
Yeah, I want to get into that quickly. The thing with the first half is I kind of get that it had to be either longer or shorter. Yeah. For me personally, I could have been on board with it if it would have been longer. But I said it should have been tighter because I just thought, this movie is already 150 minutes long, and I just don't want a longer movie just because I don't want to. I don't need 3-hour
People
movies.
will be saying the same thing about this episode.
And that's why I said it should have been tighter.
I can understand that. Yeah,
I can see how if it would have been longer, it would have also worked very well. But I just don't want 3-hour movies.
Yeah. The first bit just felt too light-hearted for me. It was just joke. It was kind of like off the cuff joke after off the cuff joke. Yeah. And I'm thinking this guy's wanted for murder, and then that just seemed to be brushed over really quickly. I mean, granted, he got Matt Murdock as a lawyer, but still.
Yeah.
Well, he made a spell as well, to be fair. It wasn't like just out of nowhere.
I did love the how did you, when he catches that break, how could you do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved that. But
I miss Matt.
But it just, for that was a hit. But for every hit in that first half, there seemed to be a lot, in my opinion, of comedy misses. It was like it was trying too hard. It wasn't until halfway through that the film settled into itself and allowed itself to breathe a little.
I will disagree with you later. But right now,
well, there's a switch.
Want to say another thing about No Way Home. I'm criticizing it so a lot that it's probably dubious why I have it on place 4. But anyway, I never really thought. I don't really know what the purpose was of killing off May.
Because Tom Holland didn't have an Uncle Ben.
Yeah,
we'd seen,
no.
But that's fine. It's
the thing is that's a very me issue. That I enjoyed May so much in the first 2 movies, and I wished we would have seen more of her. And I'm like,
isn't that successful writing then? Because that's the point. It should hit you really hard.
Yeah, but it didn't hit me hard in a way. Oh, I'm sad. It hit me hard in a way that's a waste.
But that's what you would feel if somebody you cared about died. That is kind of how you would feel. It's like, oh, I'm gutting. I liked that person. It wouldn't be like, oh, I'm sad, but I'll move on.
Yeah,
kind of
no, but the thing is, I like them, and we seen not a lot of them. That's the problem. If I liked them and we would have seen a lot of them, then obviously that would work. But I'm like, I wish we would have seen more of her before.
I mean, we got more than either of the Uncle Bens. So
that's true.
So
yeah, but they don't.
It did.
They work at least better for me.
So many times throughout the movie, I just thought by the end of it, I was a wreck.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to move on then, if that's okay, and give my number 4. We've talked at length about No Way Home, but my number 4, which will surprise nobody, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love this movie. It's one of those times where, you have certain cinema experiences where you're like, I just loved the experience of that, and the combination of the visuals with the music and the sort of art design and everything, the story it was telling, I was completely sucked up in. And it was just, it was the reason I love movies personified. And, I could go into small details like the fact that James Gunn manages to sync up ships like popping out of hyperspace or warp or whatever to a rock music's drum beat that really got me going when it's like wham bam shangalang, just as these ships are all like into that's how you get me on board for a film. That great synchronicity. So, and then as I said, the emotion of it, the actual fact that the ending after all of this humor was a full on, again, gut punch, and just you felt every inch of it. And without getting into specifics, because I will cry, the whole turning from shame to you were worthy of the Ravager funeral, and it turns out you did have a daddy all along, and then he plays father, and so it's devastatingly brilliant. But and then as I say, I just appreciated the humor because I love what the Guardians are in the MCU, and I love that it's kind of high octane sci-fi craziness. And I'm the kind of idiot that loves the Flash Gordon movies, so
you're not the only idiot.
Woo! So I'm
Gordon's alive.
Fly, my Hawkman. But that's all the reasons why I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Excuse me. Will's number 4 film on a different track is another film that's come up earlier, and that's Avengers, the first Marvel's Avengers. Surprisingly enough, Will gave this one 4.5 stars. We've
shit.
Graduated.
Oh.
I have quite a lengthy review. Exactly, yeah. Quite a lengthy review for this one where Will says, this is a very good film in my opinion. It gives everybody the chance to shine and the story itself is captivating, and the villains are the best the MCU has offered up to this point. A few nitpicks. 1, why is Samuel L. Jackson even there? 2, shoddy explanation to Loki and Thor being able to cross realms considering the events of Thor. And 3, how come the Hulk somewhat listened to his allies after transformation? That shouldn't happen, no. It's been worked into the narrative across the 2 films, but here, it doesn't massively matter. I could list all the positives, but I'd be here all day. So, Will likes it, shall we say?
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. It's his number 4, and we've all explained why it's a great one. So, fair enough. We're going to go to number 3s then, and we're going to go back to you, Tobi, for your number 3 film as we hit the top 3s here. Exciting.
Yeah, number 3 isn't really already had. It's Infinity War.
Okay, fair enough. Why was that on your list, number 3 then?
Infinity War was just a movie. When I first watched it, it was just like, whoa. 150 minutes of wow. It was.
Yeah. I explained why I thought the same kind of thing in why it was my, slightly less, but, it was still on my list quite high up, so... I'm with you. Yeah, just it's experience, really, isn't it? Just wow.
It really is just an experience, and that it's just one of the movies I don't need to give reasons why I like. I don't even want to give reasons why I like it. It's just you watch it and it's like wow, and that's
fair enough.
Absolutely, and the sort of snobs that are like, oh, you think Infinity War is a great film? It's like, no, I just think it's freaking fun, and I enjoy the heck out of 2.5 hours or whatever. So, but anyway. That's fair enough. So we'll move to yours because we've kind of talked about that. And what is your number 3, Mr. DK?
Right. This was a choice between number 1 and number 2. I'm going to go with number 1 simply because number 2 is still too raw for me and it just hurts when I think about it. And it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Whoa.
Yeah. How could I not include a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, right?
Well, given your Star-Lord avatar.
Exactly.
It would be unusual.
Yeah, they're very similar. As Tobi said earlier, it's kind of like part 1 and part 2. So it was a very tough choice to pick one. But as I say, the ending of 2, aside from having the best end credit scene in any MCU movie, the ending of the second one is just too It's still like thinking of Spock in Star Trek 2, but they're just loud, they're colourful, and above all, they're fun, and that's just the whole point of Guardians. It's why I love it, and more than anything, it introduced Rocket Raccoon to the MCU, and how could anybody have a bad word to say about that?
Here we are, just a bunch of jerks standing around in a circle. I'm gonna get that leg. Etc. I'm sure I could give you some more quotes, but one of my favorite, actually, because why not just mention it while we're here? One of my favorite quotes is one that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's not actually funny, it's more emotional impact, but it's when Peter Serafinovich's character is like commanding the fleet or whatever when the Milano flies in, and he's like, "For the record, Quill, I voted against trusting you here today. Prove me wrong." And I'm like, yes, I'm a sucker for those kind of in the middle of action one-liner type things. So. It turns it up to 11, and then just keeps getting louder and louder and louder. And the brashness of Gunn to just think, well, we could make a normal MCU movie, but let's just go for it, and just throws everything at the screen, and it just works. It does. It really does. Awesome. Well, as my phone warns me that I only have 20% battery, I'm going to have to increase the speed a bit. My number 3, again, it's come up a lot from everybody else, but my number 3 is Avengers. It was my number 1 for a while. Went back and forth, and again, my top 5 are all quite close together. I love the first Avengers movie just because it's, again, one of those things where, as you said, I never thought I'd see something like it. When you were watching X-Men movies and they were scared of yellow spandex, I was like, well, we're not going to see these more obscure or more bizarre heroes in movies, let alone have a big team up. And the fact that it was pulled off, and again, personal problems about the man aside, Whedon can write flipping dialogue and story, and I think his writing in it is some of his best. It's perfectly why I fell in love with his writing on like Buffy and Firefly and stuff. Again, not condoning him as a person, but in terms of talented writers, I think he is great at it. And again, his direction brings everything together perfectly, and things like the shot of them all in a circle as they fight, and that last fight is so good, and the little bits in between when they're sort of scuffling with each other and then they have to come together, and I just think it's such a brilliant experience, and I can't necessarily fault a lot about it. The only reason it's not higher is because, like I said, it's still a little bit tame when it comes to the things it's prepared to do, and yeah, fair enough, the ending does get a little bit Zack Snyder when it's like trashing 90% of New York without consequence. But
I do like the whole the best line in that is that the Captain America races where Iron Man says, "How's it work? It seems to run on electricity."
That's true, absolutely.
For the very first Avengers, there is a very famous, funny German parody for it, which is the parody is more in my head than the actual movie. I just wanted to throw that out. Nothing more.
Fair enough. We're all going to go searching that now. We're going to Google. Hang on, German Avengers. What's this?
The YouTuber's called Cold Mirror.
Fair. I'm just picturing Captain Germany and how different he would be. That would be one efficient super team. There'd be no messing about.
I think it probably has even English subtitles. Let me just check.
Very probably, to be fair. Awesome.
No, because it's a very popular video. It has like probably 8-9 million views, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. So we were on. That was my number 3. So I will give you Will's number 3. And again, it's very familiar. Will's number 3 is Avengers Infinity War. So, and just popping over to his letterboxd, he gave this one 5 stars. So we've gotten higher. So obviously his top 3 are all 5-star movies. Very short review, which echoes a lot of my thoughts about this movie. Just that ... was an experience. So yeah, it was indeed, Will. You're quite right. I think we enjoyed watching that at the same time because I was rewatching it while he watched it. So very good stuff. Awesome. So we're going to hit the number 2s now then before any more time passes and my phone dies. And again, I'll go back to you, Tobi, for what is your number 2 Marvel movie on your list?
Yeah, it's also a movie we already had. It's Captain America Winter Soldier.
Wow, well, that's your number 2. So that's like a 9-pointer.
That's my number 2. Which is interesting because it's, again, not the genre that I personally watch as a movie, but it has the superhero twist, and that makes it just 10 times more fun, and it's really exciting, and I love the twists in the movie, and it just keeps me on the edge for the whole time, and it was just it's just good. It's just very good. I try to think why.
Lots of people would agree with you, to be fair. I think some people, if they respond to the political thriller aspect, coupled with the Cap and Bucky story from the comics, is very emotionally impactful, and there's a lot of good, fantastic sort of spy movie action. But yeah. For me, I don't think I could ever really forgive the fact that it just nuked S.H.I.E.L.D. completely and destroyed them from appearing in the future movies, and basically put a big middle finger to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I love. So I couldn't really be...
it's still canon in my head. I don't care what anyone says.
Of course it's still canon. The first 5 seasons are absolutely canon. Just, anyway. So, Captain America the Winter Soldier, very popular movie. It's up there on the combined list. I'll spoil that ahead of time. But even though I didn't personally rate it, it goes to show that I don't always have the definitive take on these things. So we'll head over to you, DK, and ask what your number 2 is.
Right, my number 2, bit of a cheat, but I do consider them the same story, which is
what am I going to do with this?
I know.
How am I going to score this?
I don't know.
3.5 each. Well, to be honest, Endgame isn't on anybody else's flipping list, so I'll just give it to Infinity War.
Yeah. I just treat it like a Doctor Who story. Like episodes 1 and 2, it's the same story. There's no way for me to separate them. It's what they're building up to for 10 years, and it shows. Takes what Avengers is in fun and just dials it up. Some good performances, galaxy spine story, more fan service moments than you can shake a stick at, and it's just a mother of all crossovers. It don't skip a beat. Just a brilliant bookend to the whole saga. And at that point, to me, as good as the newer stuff is, it almost feels empty in comparison. If I had to separate them, I would place Infinity War above it, just for the plot and the emotional stakes. I mean, I don't think I've ever sat in a cinema that silent as the credits rolled, ever. But Endgame does regain some ground at the end when it comes in with that on your left scene. At some points, I was crying from sadness and some from jubilation.
When I watched Infinity War in cinema, during the credits, one woman was just crying the whole time.
Oh, yeah. That happened in my cinema too, yeah. That's fair enough.
Everybody was just shell shocked, I think.
Yeah, I get shocked, but I'm like, I don't think I would have ever cried at something like that. Sorry, but I'm just kind of, because I knew that it's not gonna last anyway. My rational brain was just like, it's gonna get reversed
devastating
anyway.
when you see the way it's acted out and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, but
Tom Holland in that just
absolutely, yeah, that's the
it
one.
Was sad, but it wasn't like it made me cry, because in the back of my head it was all the time just I know it's not gonna last anyway.
Yeah. Comics.
Yes, fair enough. If anybody's interested, just for the sake of fairness, I just split that 4.5 between both movies, because I kind of had to, because Endgame, even with 4.5, sneaks, I think. Oh, no, hang on, it's just outside of the top 10, so it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, I didn't really want to give 9 full points to Infinity War, but it is still top of the list, so it's still probably going to win. But yeah, awesome. But yeah, so the number 2 films then. My number 2 film is, and we talked about it earlier, this is where I'm going to defend myself. My number 2 film is Spider-Man No Way Home. You want to talk about It's Your Spider-Verse? It is my opus. It is my Star Wars. It is my birth of my child, for crying out loud. It is,
oh my God.
Having grown up loving Superman and Spider-Man amongst, all other things and all of the superheroes, growing up watching all of these Spider-Man films and investing in them all, feeling the emotions of them all as will become clear and stuff, and then seeing them on screen together for the first time, it was too emotional. And it was the only time in my memory that I can remember an entire audience of people clapping when Andrew Garfield and then Tobi Maguire appeared. And I was completely with it. I wasn't just like, oh, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Because normally the sort of side of me is like, it's a film, calm down. But yeah, I absolutely was on board for the whooping and the cheering. And I was never expecting they were going to give them more than a cameo. So when they actually had quite a sizable role, I was pleasantly surprised. I would have been equally just awed by the fact that Doc Ock was in the movie, and it was Alfred Molina, and he was, the same guy. And then Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe doing his thing. And ultimately, my thing about this movie is, and again, it's going to be a controversial take, it repaired the MCU Spider-Man and actually made him into Spider-Man for the first time by actually using the influence of the other two Spider-Men. That's why I think
it repaired them all.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it redeemed Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man for sure. It made him more beloved, and people are now crying out for a movie from him, which they weren't after 2. So it did something right. But yeah, for me, I didn't like Homecoming at all, because to me, it just wasn't Peter Parker. He's supposed to be, yes, he tells jokes, which is why I don't mind the first half of this movie. And he's kind of flippant at times, but he's not supposed to be an idiot. He's meant to be a science genius. And the fact that he was like a falling over my own feet, falling over Tony Stark kind of buffoon didn't sit well with me on Homecoming. Far From Home tried to do a little bit to redeem it, but it was still kind of like Tony Stark's enemy he's fighting. But it's getting there in Far From Home, which is why it becomes an honorable mention. But in No Way Home, like I said, that's why you've got Aunt May killed off to give him his own version of Uncle Ben and his own stakes, because they all have emotional impact, some more than one. He has to make the Peter Parker decision at the end, which my brother absolutely detested. And I'm like, no, that is the core of Spider-Man, to be completely selfless. And yeah, some people would win, but he never gets to be happy. And I'm like, again, that's the point of the story. It's that heroism has to be its own reward, not like, I'm going to get married and have kids and everything will be fine. It's like, heroism requires sacrifice. With great power comes great responsibility, So I absolutely love that movie, and cannot wait to rewatch it, because I also have the Blu-ray here and I haven't been able to get around to it. But it's a very special movie for me. And like I said, having remembered where I was even in time, the very first time I saw some of the other movies, it brought me back there in a way that I didn't think possible. And so it was too special not to put very high, but still only make my number 2 for reasons that will become clear. So yeah, I'm going to move to Will's number 2 now then. And the number 2 movie on Will's list is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So again, maybe a surprise, especially if Tobi didn't think it was that popular. But I love this, because I think he's one of the only other people other than me that would give this movie 5 stars, even though it was a bit lower in my list. But yeah, he did give it 5 stars, obviously, on Letterboxd, and he just has written, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. The best MCU film I've watched so far by a country mile." So yeah, what more can you say? I don't disagree, and I love that at least one other person loves the film as much as I do. So not here to argue with that one. So then, finally, for this particular part of the proceedings, we are going to have to ask everybody's number 1, their best, favoritist Marvel movie out of all Marvel films. And Tobi, we're going to have to start with you.
Yeah.
What's your number 1?
What I said before we started, that one thing is going to be interesting. Number 1 movie is, please hold your seat, Doctor Strange 1.
Yes!
Oh.
I'm on board. Even though it's not in my top 10, I cannot disagree with you. I love that movie.
It is mesmerizing for me. Yep. I'm watching it and I can't take my eyes off. It looks so good. I love the vision. I don't really care about the story or anything. I'm just looking at the visuals and like, that's beautiful. I love it. It's just so fun to look at.
I could sing its praises. I will jump on and take the baton here and say that I do care about the story, and I love that ultimately it boils down to that one line that the Ancient One says to Strange: "It's not about you," and that's the lesson that people that hate this film I don't think are getting. That they don't quite understand.
I obviously care about the story. I just said that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I'm just trying to say why you would also respond to that. And I'm guessing, like me, you also appreciate that it doesn't end in a kind of typical laser in the sky fighting somebody with your powers. And it's really clever in the way it does it. So I'll let you talk about that.
It's clever and it's funny. It's both.
Yes,
and that's what's very genius about this. And it's clever and it's funny. I like how the the time stone is used in this movie. I really like that. I'm normally not very much a fan about training sequences because they are very often quite boring. But what I liked about this one is probably because I never heard of Doctor Strange before watching this movie. Like, I don't know who he is. Before the MCU, I didn't know anything about comics.
Okay.
And in terms of Marvel comics, I still don't. I can explain my reason again after I finish my point about Doctor Strange. I really like the training sequence because I really loved finding out more about this whole mystic thing, which I have no idea what this is, and that was really fun to just find out about more. And is what really excites me about the next Doctor Strange is this mystic side of the MCU is just I am really liking finding out about all this because I have no idea. The reason why I don't read Marvel comics now is, I already told you this once, is that I do not want to get myself spoiled on anything the MCU does, even though, yes, it obviously goes quite a bit away from the comics, and at times I've read about this. But yeah, I just consider for now the MCU to be my Marvel comics, and want to experience that. And if it ever ends, which it eventually will sometime, I don't know when, and I do check out comics of people that where the storyline of the MCU is finished off. Like, I did read some stuff about Iron Man and stuff, because it's most likely finished for ever.
Yeah, that kind of.
Yeah, but I already told you that also that's kind of the reason why I read more DC comics now, because the DC movies stuff is no,
that's fine.
Yeah, it's not working. So
I see what you mean. Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree with you and do the same thing. And I think it can be a benefit, but it can also be a matter of, like, see the movie first. Like, for example, I would say if you'd never known anything about the Eternals, then probably see the film first. And even though the film isn't great, if you find yourself compelled to explore that story, then the comics are always there for you to do it. It's better done in the comics. So you could do it that way, as opposed to, because I'm the same with books and stuff. I never want to like read a book before going to see the movie adaptation, because it kind of spoils it. But I will go back and do the other way around, where if I've seen a film, I can now picture people, characters and things in my head easier. So I'll read the book and see what the differences are from having said that, I do appreciate watching things that I have read anyway, because obviously there's comics that I've read that then get adapted, and it's like, oh, okay, fair enough. But I'm certainly not one of these people that's like, it's terrible because you didn't exactly adapt this line by line for whatever. So, yeah.
To be fair, the comics are way broader than like a movie adaptation. So,
of course,
yeah. So there's like if a movie is a book is adapted into a movie, there's a lot of stuff where like this didn't work. This is not in the book. This is not. You can just go all over the place because it just the one book, it doesn't have much more content to it, and like with Marvel comics, there's like so much content, and obviously it's still going on, and the comics are also written in a way that it makes it easy to just invent new stuff for the movies.
Yeah,
which obviously isn't the intention of the comics, but it just is the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I think plus the comics aren't hampered by having to do something that you can afford special effects wise. It can be whatever you can, paint, and they're not hampered by like rights issues or which characters you can and can't feature or whatever. So it really is way more imaginative if you wanted to dive into them. It's a different experience. But
yeah,
I do love that the films are kind of embracing more and more of that as well. So it's all good. Awesome. So. Exciting times. And what is your number one, DK? And if you say Howard the Duck again.
Oh, shit. I didn't know you could do that. Right. I think I know what your number one is going to be.
Okay.
But, so I'll start with, I had some debate about whether to include this one or the second one.
Okay.
And while the second one's technically the superior movie, I'm going to go with the first Spider-Man. I'm saying that
made
about
the wrong choice.
Yeah, I'm saying that about that because that train scene, which is by far the best scene in any Marvel movie ever. But I'm going to have to go with the original simply because of it being the first. We were waiting so long to see Spidey on the big screen, and for me, this changed everything. Tobey Maguire's excellent, and while the costume could have been better, I mean, anyone that's seen the clips of the alternate makeup will tell you that Dafoe made for a fantastic Green Goblin. As far as movies go, things like X-Men and Blade may have made an impact, but in my opinion, it was the first Spider-Man movie that kicked things into gear. And for that reason, it has to be my number one.
You made the wrong choice. I feel like the Knight Templar in the Last Crusade. Just you have chosen poorly.
No, the second one is good. It was right until the last minute. It was number 2, but then I thought I really wouldn't have been that interested in seeing number 2 had not the first one made such an impact. So I have to give it to the first.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Terminator 2, but it's still a better movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, I said it's technically superior, but yeah. for emotional, it was the first one to really grab me.
Lucky for you, my choice still makes it into the combined list. Just
the thing with the original Spider-Man movies is, for me, that I watched them obviously not when they came out, because when did they come out? 2002. When did the first one?
Spider-Man was 2002. Spider-Man 2 was 2004.
Yeah, so I was under 1 year of age, so wow. difficult.
Can I kick him out of the recording, DK?
Difficult to go into cinema. So I watched them I did bought a DVD box with all 3 movies. I bought them when I was in London one time. I got them used, and I did watch them 1.5 and 2 years ago, and I'm not a big fan of the. I think they're all right. I think they're okay. I think they're all right, but I don't think that they're that good. And
we've lost him. Oh, can you believe that's happened? Oh no. Oh, he was making such a good point. Oops. Oh, look at that. He's gone. Sorry, Toby, you were saying.
And
I feel like Don Cheadle in Civil War, where Tom Holland says, "Have everybody seen that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back?" And Don Cheadle's like, "Jesus, Tony, how old is this kid?"
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but for Star Wars, I watched a Star Wars movie when I was little, so I grew up with them. So
no, I'm only kidding. If it's not your thing, it isn't your thing. But it's fair enough. It's justifiable. But this is my chance to get on my soapbox and say that my number one film, as it is very close to my number one of all time, is Spider-Man 2, because I think it is a work of absolute art. I think I can remember where I was. I was at university at the time, but when I first saw this movie, and I had a friend who was a fellow Spider-Man fan, and we emailed each other like a 3-page review, just glowing praise for how good this film was. Everything from the fact that the little moment of Robbie Robertson showing that he supports Spider-Man, it's there for just the fans because it's a blink and you'll miss it thing, to how good Doc Ock is in general, and then the train sequence is just one of the best action things on film. It's outstanding. It's just the structure of it, the way that it's written, but ultimately the fact that it is about heroism and the way that we all look up to heroes. It is superhero films personified, and it comes down to that scene where Aunt May says, boys like him need a hero, someone to look up to, someone who will do the right thing, even if sometimes it's painful and you have to give up the things you want. People need heroes in this world. And I'm like, wow, that is powerful stuff. And that is the epitome for me of what Spider-Man as a character has always represented, because it's not a question of, I'm the glowing billionaire that can do anything and equip myself with super high-tech armor and kick ass. And it's like, I'm just a kid trying to do my best because I have to. It's my responsibility. And yes, it's hard. And yes, the world beats the crap out of me, but people need a hero, and there's far too little of that in the world, which is why, if you pardon my hyperbole, I adore Spider-Man 2. That and the first Spider-Man has a villain who looks like he stepped out of the first Power Rangers movie. That's all I'm saying about that.
I admit the costume's not great, but
Yeah, I like the first Spider-Man, but it's just it didn't quite get it right until 2, I think, where it nailed the character for me.
Yeah.
So just to finish this off then, I have to give you Will's number 1. And this will surprise us a lot more than I thought it was going to. Any guesses what his number 1 might be?
I have no idea.
Can't think of anything.
No. Well, Will's number 1 film, it's not an MCU film, I'll tell you that. His number 1 film is Logan. A movie he gave 5 stars to. He only watched it for the first time 2 weeks ago, I think. I will say that. 16th of, well, a few weeks ago, 16th of March, but a month. So he having it 5 stars and wrote, "This was unexpected" as his review. But in the comments elaborated, 100% brilliant film, one of the rare instances where I have absolutely nothing to criticize. It's a masterpiece. So he's definitely on board with a lot of the common consensus when it comes to Logan. So yeah, fair play. That was number 1, and that got 10 points off the back of it. So.
After you said it, it kind of makes sense for me to like Logan. It's the type of movie I see him enjoying very much.
Yes, yeah. Well, he's very cerebral at times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, I will leave the reveal of our combined top 10 till the last thing, and I'll move on briefly to the audience interaction section next, because I did put out a brief sort of message to social media and say I didn't want to get bogged down into top 10s, and so I asked for people's top 3 films so that I could make a combined list. I only had a few replies, so it won't take long to get through, but then I'm going to throw it to Tobi, who I think does have a top 10 list from a friend of his that he wanted to address. So... first things first, then, as I say, I only had a small few replies. 4 people replied, so that's all there is dealing with it. But at Bill for Vendetta, his top 3, he said Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Spider-Man, No Way Home, Avengers Endgame. If you weren't grinning at Endgames on your left, you have no soul. Okay. At Mangler112, who comments quite often, he says Iron Man, Logan, Infinity War. Tough choice, to be honest, because I love so many. At Mike246238899, the 24th million of the mics, says Logan, Spider-Man 2, brackets Tobi, and the last is always tough because I'm odd. I love the old Marvel movies. Like the first X-Men movie was pretty cool to me when they had to act and not rely on CGI, but Blade was the coolest. So there you go. And finally, Tom Sly, I won't try and pronounce the rest of that name, says Spider-Man 2, Logan, and Spider-Man No Way Home. And has left no comment other than to give his list of 3, which, again, fair enough. So putting that together, I was able to come up with a combined audience list, believe it or not, of 8 movies. So the audience top 8 from the very barest of responses that we got, in reverse order, is at number 8, Blade. At number 7, Avengers Endgame. At number 6, Avengers Infinity War. At number 5, Spider-Man No Way Home. At number 4, Iron Man. At number 3, Captain America The Winter Soldier. At number 2, Spider-Man 2, the best of the Spider-Mans. And at number 1, Logan again.
We're seriously out of touch.
Yeah, man, apparently so. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of crossover there. So
yeah, I just cannot believe I'm the only person to bring up Howard the Duck. I'm just ashamed.
And yet I'm glad you did. So, there we go. Seriously, just Google Leah Thompson, Howard the Duck. Thank us later. But anyway, I'm going to hand the reins over to you, Tobi, for a little bit then to explain what your top 10 is from your friend and go through the products.
This top 10 is from my friend who I'm watching all the MCU stuff with. We just watch them all together. For place 1 to 8, he did give a little explanation very briefly. Cool. So place number 10 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 9 is Spider-Man Homecoming, which surprised me. And then number 8, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he just says they both really work well together. Number 7, Iron Man 1. He really likes the character development of Tony Stark in this movie. Number 6 is the first Ant-Man. He thinks it's a quirky heist movie, and he really likes the way the story is told through the characters.
Okay.
Number 5, Thor Ragnarok. very funny, and he really likes the pacing of it. Number 4, Winter Soldier, very thrilling. Number 3, Doctor Strange. It would have been above the next 2 movies, that number 1 and 2, if the very beginning wouldn't be so generic.
Okay.
Number 2, Guardians of Galaxy 1. Funny, something exciting, and it's very fun how the crew is just getting together. And number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He thinks Ego is the best Marvel villain. Very funny movie with a very good story for Star-Lord.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good list. A very good list.
That is a good list.
Awesome. And what was your friend's name? Sorry, because I missed it, just to make sure he gets his shout out.
I didn't
Oh, sorry. Okay, if you'd rather not, that's fair enough. That's all right.
Yeah.
But,
Can I just ask? What's everybody's least favorite
Marvel movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Morbius.
very easy. Morbius.
Genuinely is Morbius.
I've not seen it, so I couldn't comment on that one.
Yeah.
Is it as bad as they say?
Oh,
Yes.
possibly worse.
Possibly worse, yeah.
Oh dear. Is that yours as well, Toby?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And
There you go.
the worst thing is not the one thing that everyone is hating about. It's the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because
It's just bad.
I'm not going to say much, but the one thing everybody's hating about, I honestly don't really care about too much because it just doesn't matter too much.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the end credits kind of thing. That,
The post-credit scene.
Yeah,
that was done. But it's
It
not
was
the
just
worst part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's insult to injury, but there's bad, plenty of bad before then.
The thing is, it's very easy to just ignore. You
For
know.
now, yes.
But no, I tell you why, because the MCU will never, ever, ever embrace what Sony did. I'm very sure about that. So if either the MCU is just going to ignore it, and in that case, you could just ignore whatever Sony is doing as well. Just don't care.
Which we should.
Or the MCU is actively trying to just say, no, this is not what's happening, present an alternative that's very much better probably. And so you can just choose which you want to believe, which is a very easy choice in that case. So in any way, it's not going to matter for me at all.
I guess, yeah.
Yes.
But no, in terms of Morbius, EK, just don't bother. It's pretty much as bad as you could possibly imagine, if not worse. So.
I'll probably watch it when it's on TV and just wait for that and just go in with low expectations.
I can't even really endorse even that. And normally I would be like, yeah, see for yourself. But like, there's nothing. It gives you nothing. There's no semblance of a plot. There's no it's like watching somebody color in some wallpaper, except less exciting. Anyway.
Well, the fact that you both automatically said it was your worst. Oh, yeah, it's not looking good.
No. What was your worst anyway then?
I've got to say Eternals.
Oh, that hurts me.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just find it dull and with extremely unlikable characters.
That hurts my soul. Oh.
No, just as much as I love the MCU, I can't get on board with it. And then to sort of put, insult to injury, throwing Harry Styles in at the end. It's like,
oh, now that I do have.
Get thee to a nunnery. It's no, it's not. As much as I wanted to love it, and when it started, I thought, oh, I'm going to enjoy this. And by about halfway through, my brain had gone, no, I'm out.
I really like the concept. I just wish they'd done them better, and it feels like a shame that it might go the way of the Inhumans and be like, oh, don't touch that then, because much like the Inhumans, there's so much cool stuff in the comics and stuff you could do, and they just didn't. And the way it was done was a mess, which is a shame because it is, it's, don't get me wrong, it's not a great movie. It's not anywhere near the worst, especially not when you take all of Marvel into consideration.
I don't know. I would rather sit down and watch Spider-Man 3 than I would Eternals again.
Spider-Man 3, I have, things that I could defend, but I'm thinking of things like Elektra or Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
I actually enjoyed Spirit of Vengeance more than I did into Eternals. That's how low it is on the scale for me.
Okay, that's okay. But you did not enjoy Elektra more, and if you did, then you liar.
I honestly can't really remember it.
Exactly.
Was
That's your brain
Stamp in
protecting you. Yes, he is. He plays Stick in that movie.
Yeah, I remember Terence Stamp, and that's about it.
Do you remember Goran Visnich from ER as the main love interest?
Oh, God, yeah. And didn't he have a daughter or something?
He did, who Elektra had to kill but couldn't, because conscience.
Let's move on. Let's just move.
Moving on then, anyway. I do have the final scores to give a combined list, and then we can get out of here. We all enjoyed it, and I think it's fun talking the stuff we like. So the combined list, as I mentioned, what I've done is I gave everybody's lists a sort of points value, where if a film was listed as number 10, it got 1 point, number 9 got 2 points, number 8 got 3, right the way up to the first number 1 list, on anyone's list, would have gotten 10 points. With that, I've come up with a combined list where, surprisingly and thankfully, there's only one tie, and it's actually at the very bottom of the list. So that's convenient. So tied for 9th place, because there's 2 of them, with 10 points, is both Doctor Strange and Spider-Man 2. Fair enough. 2 good films. In 8th place with 14 points is Logan. In 7th place with 15 points, Guardians of the Galaxy. In 6th place with 16 points is the first Spider-Man. In 5th place with 18 points is Captain America the Winter Soldier. In 4th place with 20 points, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. In 3rd place with 23 points, Spider-Man No Way Home. So, what are we thinking is going to come out on top? It's exciting. In 2nd place with 24 points and 1.5 points behind the number 1, it's Avengers. And as if that half point doesn't give it away, with 25.5 points, the number 1 greatest Marvel movie, according to our democratic consensus, is Avengers Infinity War. So, yeah, fair enough. I mean, what can you say about that list? There is 3 movies in that list that are not MCU, so at least there are some. 2 Avengers movies in there, at least 3 Spider-Man movies that I can see, both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Lots to like. So, yeah, heck of a list. And there will be no more debate because we have decided, and I knock my gavel down and say, this is the definitive list now. No more. So, no, it's been fun. It's been really good talking to you guys about all things Marvel because, you know, we love it. So just before we go, did anyone want to shout out where people can find you and other future projects? And we'll start with our guest, Tobi.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, obviously, dark_sonic 2002. I have a YouTube channel I can shout out, but there's no English content on it.
Oh, well, fair enough. You never know, we might have some German viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah. The name only makes sense for German viewers anyway. It's called Zusammenschauen, which I translate for you as watching together. It's where I just do with my friend. It's where I do with my friend reviews and podcasts about Marvel movies. And yeah, but no English content so far. We're looking into it maybe sometime.
Well, there's always subtitles. I think YouTube do that automatically kind of now, so maybe people might enjoy it that way. You never know.
Oh, yeah, sure. If YouTube does that, I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I know you're always here, but why not give us the shout out of all the usual info?
And what, me? You kind of cut out there for a second.
Sorry, I did say DK, but I think I cut out.
Yeah. Just as usual, can be found on Twitter at AKA Starlord.
Ooh, Guardians. And yeah, as I say, myself and DK are working on a couple of podcasts. At the moment, our focus is on the one you're currently watching, which is the Silver Screen podcast. We are at podcast_screen on Twitter, and you can follow the link in our description there to find the YouTube channel, because Silver Screen is a popular name and the YouTube URL is Marvel Man Mike, because it was my personal channel for a while. We also are working together on the Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast channel. We recently concluded the second series of podcasts about Star Trek, but we are hoping, I think, for a comeback later in the year. And there's always content up on there in terms of Eagle Moss product reviews and things like that. And we're always on the internet talking Star Trek as well. So that can be found at HOM Trek or at Hom Trek. I personally can be found at Ian Mike Wilson, or just my name on Instagram, Facebook, and all over the internet where Mike Wilsons are sold. So yeah, and if you want to talk to us about anything geeky, as you can probably tell by this episode, by all means, hit us up and ask about it, and hopefully our lists haven't offended. Please don't. We get enough. But yeah,
I put Howard the Duck. I can take it. I've already had some for the first contact one on the last one.
Oh, come on. But yeah, hopefully we didn't offend you too much with our lists, but what the heck, man, if you can't appreciate a little Howard the Duck every now and then, what's wrong with you? So no, thank you so much for joining us, Tobi, as our guest here. It was really cool talking to Marvel. We will hear from you again very soon for another review that we teased. And thanks again to Will Templar, absent friend, again, not dead, but just not here, for contributing his list and contributing to the total. And thanks, DK, for being my partner in crime on these endeavors.
A pleasure as always, Mike.
Awesome. We will catch you guys later. Keep an eye peeled for the next thing, which will be a review of Doctor Strange, the new one. And in the meantime, in the epic words of Arnie, I'll be back.